With 38 days to kickoff, we check in now with our friends out in Boise, AC Boise, just moments away, 38 days, in fact, for their opening kickoff in USL League One. And so now we're joined by co-founder of the club, former U.S. Soccer VP, Bill Taylor. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround, sir.
Oh, thanks. I really appreciate it, Robert. Jason, nice to see you.
Thanks for coming on, Bill. I see a bunch of trophies behind you. That's always a good sign that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. It's a good wall. It's a good wall in my office.
Well, that's I imagine people are like, okay, all right. So Bill, tell us. I mean, we've had a chance to talk to your co-founder, Brad Stith. We talked to the head coach, Nate Miller. We're now talking to you. So right now, what are you engaged in? Again, 38 days from your first game.
Right now, the team's down in San Diego. We're in preseason. We've gone through 2 trials in January. Actually, sorry, we had 1 trial in January. We had a trial back in November, an open door trial in November, and then we took some of those players and we invited them back to a closed door trial in January that we just finished on the 19th and 20th, and then went straight into preseason, did our physicals and all that stuff, and we're at Chula Vista for a couple of weeks. They just had their first 2 days started on Monday. I'll be joining the team on Friday, and I'll be down there for the remainder of preseason with the staff. But all reports back to me thus far on a daily basis have been very positive. So we have kind of to me, it's a 2-phase process. You have in the preseason, you have our travel part where we kind of go away and try and figure out the base of the team. As you've seen, we've announced, 13 players now, with Dom being Dominique Gasso is the most recent that we've announced. We've signed more, obviously, but that's all pending, federation and league approval. But with that being said, in Chula Vista, we'll kind of you're trying to get the team together and figure out those trialists. From our open trial, we took about 7 players with us, beyond the ones that we've already signed, and so it's a time to really try and figure out who your team is at that point. And then when we come back to Boise, we'll be here for 3 more weeks until the season kicks off. And during that period of phase, you've pretty much got your team put together, and you're kind of going through your tactics and your camaraderie, and you're trying to build the culture at that point. And so you're ready to go day one.
I do want to dig in and kind of hammer down on like the specifics of what you were looking for in those players in the tryouts and what you want to see from players in preseason, and kind of like what image you're trying to mold this debutante squad into. But you are the co-founder, AC Boise, in a time of American soccer expansion. What sparked you to get this team going? What made you think, I want to start a soccer club and then start it in Boise, Idaho?
I don't know that you have enough time on your podcast for this one.
Give it a shot.
But from a high level, I mean, my background is a little bit unique, I think, for the role that I'm playing. I don't know that there's many neuroradiologists that are doing this. So, but coming from, I have a lens, like, so everyone, your life experiences give you different lenses, right? And so, my particular lens that I look through is a little bit unique, I think, because I've grown up just loving the game. Everyone, I mean, a lot of people have passions in different areas. It's great when those passions line up and it can actually work out. And so, from growing up in Hawaii, then, coming all the way through and playing, and I just love the game and, all of those kinds of things from a fan perspective, but then having the ability to then the opportunities to coach and then to kind of move into the politics of all of it. Here, when I moved to Boise, I kind of really then said, okay, this is going to be my secondary passion, right? So my first passion obviously is with medicine, and but I don't think I think I've spent as much time in the soccer world as I have in medicine at this point. I think anyone that knows me knows that's true. So with that being said, I'm well over the 10,000 hours that people talk about in both professions, actually. So with that being said, Boise specifically, since I moved to Boise in 2004, because I'm not an Idaho native. I wasn't like born and raised here. I'm a transplant, but Boise's put their arms around me and my family, since 2004 when we arrived. And ever since I got here, I've always seen the goal is to try and create a pathway between the youth landscape and the pro landscape. And so from day one, I was always proactive in trying to create a bridge between this pathway, including, during my journey of becoming, I was the state president for Idaho Youth Soccer Association for about a decade or so. And I was coaching club for the last 20 years. I coached club year round plus high school on top of it. So I was coaching, literally year round for many, many years, and understood like that. I learned, and I wanted to understand the politics behind all of it as well. So that I kind of got into all the politics while I was coaching. I was doing the politics and growing and understanding not only the local politics, but then wanted to understand at a national level. And was fortunate enough to have that opportunity with US Soccer, and really kind of was an eye-opening experience. But drawing all of that back to your question, which is, why Boise, why now? During all of that, we had the opportunity to bring Athletic Bilbao, for example, to Boise in 2015. And that 2-year journey from 2013 to 2015 for me was extremely impactful, working with the city, with our mayor and Argia Beristain, who's now at Boise State University. The three of us basically, did something that was really life changing and unique. And we brought in, a Champions League team into Boise during that year, right? So Valverde was the coach back then, had them play against Club Tijuana, put in, 24,000 plus people into the stadium. And really kind of woke up Idaho to like, hey, a pro team can come here and survive. So that led then 2 years later to, I wanted to run the experiment with, a team that would be more realistic to us, which was at that time, the USL 2 teams. And we brought in, Portland Timbers 2, and they played against Swope Park Rangers at the high school that I coached at. And we sold it out 5,000. It took like a few days to sell that out. It was easy. And that's where it really kicked off. When that happened, and we ironically brought in Blake Bodley, and he played as one of the youngest players in the USL for that game. That was a proud moment for us in the community. And so that's kind of where the kickoff was. So I've always been pushing, right, for this opportunity.
The thing about, you having this youth soccer background, having coached at the youth level, and then being involved in the pro team and the launch of a brand new team in a place like Boise is interesting to me, because I think the history of American soccer at the professional level is sort of littered with these teams that are, wholly conceived of as businesses, right? They're wholly conceived of as professional sports enterprises, and that's okay. Like a minor league baseball team, the players come from somewhere else, but the idea is we're a local business. And it's not, while you may connect with the community, there isn't the same kind of pathway that you can obviously create in soccer. And I don't know if my question is, do you think that this is something that every community can do? Because our viewers, this is what they care about. They want to see professional soccer teams around the country so kids can dream about playing for their local team. Is this unique to Boise? And from your experiences, is AC Boise's approach unique?
I think we'll have we're in the process of develop, right? Proof in the pudding kind of thing. Like, next year when you talk to us, we'll see where we really what we actually accomplished. I'm very optimistic, and probably overly optimistic, but I know my ownership group that I'm working with and our desires. It's been from day one. It was part of me being a part of this process required us. When Brad Stith came to my house the very first time and said, hey, like, do you want to work with us? And we went through this. I shared with him the vision of what I think our opportunity for the kids here locally really consists of, and how we would go about doing it. You watch over and over again, pro organizations come into local landscapes, and what is the first thing they do? They start an academy, right? And they compete against their fans, which I think is a bad model personally. I may take some flack on this, but I believe that, we're staying agnostic to that. So the model we're putting in place is a kind of a unique one, I think. Spoke at it at the Philly conference, the United Soccer Coaches Conference the other day with the USL, with Liam O'Connell. what we want to do is we want to wrap our arms around, and I've been pretty vocal about our ODP system, for example. I think the ODP program, especially if you're in an area that's somewhat geographically isolated, this is where it benefits us. Like normally it's a disadvantage to be geographically isolated, but if you're in an LA market, it's different, right? If you're New York or some big marketplace where you have players coming from all over the place and you just have this huge player pool, I think the model will be different there. But in more of the country, I think you have more things that are closer to what Boise is, which is a little more not quite as geographically isolated, but relative. So utilizing something like your ODP system, where you have coaches from the community already there, you have players that come in. The key with that is you have to make it free. You need to make it so that it's not cost prohibitive for players to come in. And to be honest with you, I've been pushing that even with US Soccer. I was always of the opinion, I said, look, if we really wanted to know what our talent pool was, and we wanted to close the gap on that, we would make that the scouting and identification pathway, whether it's ODP or whatever pathway you're talking about, as from a scouting perspective for players, you want to make that system free or as inexpensive as possible. So that's what we're going to try and do. We're creating a foundation that's separate from AC Boise. That's part of our ownership group that will then fund, we'll start at U14, we'll go to 16, we'll have 20s. And while it won't be owned by AC Boise, it'll be in collaboration with the state association. We'll educate coaches. We'll bring big player pools in and make it, there's a lot of refugee kids here. There's a lot of people that just can't afford the soccer system that we currently live in. And it allows us to not compete directly with the local clubs, because they can still play with their club. If they want to spend more money and go do that, that's fine. But they'll train at our facility. We'll be able to have eyes on them from our coaching staff, and it's the best shot. And in the end, if we get one or two players from that matriculate into us, then fantastic. But you know what? What's more important about all of this is that we actually help these kids have a great future, because that's the vehicle that we have. That's the social responsibility, I believe, from an ownership group. We have the opportunity to really impact the lives of so many kids that can go on to college or to get trades or to other things that they wouldn't otherwise have, using competition to be the mechanism, right? So that's the lens that we're coming at it with. And, I think it's a good lens, but we'll see how good we get with it.
Yes, thank you for describing that kind of like youth on up connection to the pro game, like kind of foundation that you're establishing. Like that's not always the case. Sometimes is just like the moving truck comes to town with the team, and then it's like, okay, go. And that doesn't seem to be the case at all. And eventually maybe the programs you're talking about establishing, maybe they do end up literally connecting those youth players getting into that pro side. But here in year one, you have Blake Botley, your first signing, local player, but you've also added another dozen players or so in this process as your team enters preseason 38 days ahead of their first ever match. So what do you want to see from this group? Like, I guess, what's the vision? What is if anyone was to describe what athletic or AC Boise is here in 2026, what are the phrases that you want to hear them described as?
I think the roster build is what you're referring to, obviously, but and to step back, we've been fortunate. You've already interviewed Nate. He's a special talent. I do wholeheartedly believe that we made a great choice there. He brings an energy and a level of professionalism that's just fantastic for starting where we're at. So that's the baseline, right? You got to get your coaching staff right first, because that's going to determine your roster build, and the type of people we're signing is reflective of that, and very professional. There's kind of for us, we wanted to go, some teams might have a methodology of going about it, like, hey, we want to develop young players and then we want to sell them or what have you, right? So we want to be more of a developmental model. Other people are like, no, we just want to go on the field and win. We really don't care about them. And then I think we're kind of in between the two, where we want a level of experience. We want a core group of guys that we're bringing in that have good experience. And then we want to bring in a few kids, a few younger players that have growth potential. And then maybe one or two in the early phase. I think our paradigm might shift over the next few, 3 or 4 years. But in year one, that's kind of the paradigm that we're going with. So leaders, creators, competitors, right? And if you look at the signings that we brought in, like I would highlight probably 3 of them initially, like, Blake Bodley being the first one. I have a personal side. I was Blake's first coach when he was 13. So when he was, I remember being on the first phone call with his mom when he was 12 and bringing him over to my team. And we had a special team, actually. It was a regional level team. It was probably one of the better teams I've ever coached. But winning the very first trophy that Blake has ever won is always a highlight for me. But I followed him. I brainwashed him over the last few years, decade or so, as I traveled. Whenever I was in a city that Blake was in, I'd take him to lunch. I'd be like, hey, he'd ask me, how's the pro thing going? I'd be like, well, we're struggling. We failed at this or whatever. Well, we'll get it, Blake. He said, and we're gonna get it, and you're gonna come and play for us. And he goes, yeah, whatever. And so, sometimes it's rare that these kind of things work out, but it did. So Blake's a fantastic example of the type of player bringing in. I think one of the other ones, kind of the opposite side, not opposite side, but kind of the other spectrum of it, to me, is a unique one that we just signed, is Dominique Gasso. He's the first, academy to pro signing, from a USL academy to pro signing, which is a pretty cool thing, from Detroit City. He brings, a technical ability, a relentless player. He's creative through the midfield. He's going to be a great pickup for us, I think. And then the third one that I would probably highlight, whenever I say his name, I kind of laugh, because it's Denis Kostasian, because I feel like I'm slurring or having a stroke when I say his last name. But he's a personality, right? You need that guy that comes into the locker room the day he shows up in his white puffy coat and furry stuff, and he just is smiling, and he's engaging. He's one of those locker room kind of guys that you like to have, and that his background from the Ukraine brings a different perspective and grit, and European, especially Ukraine, right? If you watch the Ukrainian leagues, you're tough. So
I just came across a little interview with Dennis where he talks about why he decided to sign with Boise, because there's people that know him are like, what, why Boise? And he said, they impressed me, which is obviously a reflection on you and on Brad and everybody else involved in the club, that he said, oh, this is really cool what they're building in Boise.
Yeah. And I think part of it is when if you look at a roster build as a transactional process, I think you're short-sighting yourself from the experience of being even as a coach and an owner, right? This is so much more than just getting on the field and winning a game on Saturday or Wednesday or whatever you play, right? It's an opportunity to affect, not, granted they're professionals, but all of these professionals are it's going to be the last stop for them. They're going to have to do something else in their life at some point. And one of the things we want to do as well is we want to invest in these players off the field. So we're giving them opportunities. If they want to invest in themselves, we are providing avenues through my ownership group for business opportunities, for internships, for other things, instead of playing FIFA all day. So we want to invest in players that we're bringing players to Boise that also see that vision, that, hey, you're not just coming here, you're a part of our family, and we want to help you be successful off the field as much as you're successful on the field. And whether you're with us for 1 year or 3 years or 4 years, however long you're with our club, you're now a part of our club. I don't care if you go play for Detroit or whoever else you go play for, you can always call me, you can always come back to us. I'll always help you facilitate, because now you're a part of our family. And I've treated my players, whether they're kids and now adults and having their own children and getting master's degrees or doctorates, like, you're a part of my family. And so I think when you go to people with that humanistic, they can feel that, and they sense that you value them. You're not a commodity. You're not someone that's just showing up and winning a game on Saturday and then, great, or you didn't win and you're just a commodity and like, hey, we're trading you off, right? Like, no, you have value. You're a person. We want to really invest in you. We want to go deep. And I think the players, when they interview with us, when their agents are talking to us, they sense that. And I think we've gotten unique players because of that methodology, our belief system and what we're trying to do.
Bill, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kickaround. Before we let you go, while you're still here in front of our audience, is there anything for folks that are excited about it from far away? Is there anything that you want to express about your team while you have this audience in front of you?
You know, I'm hoping that you'll be able to come and visit us. You know, I think we have a unique atmosphere that we built. The stadium's really cool. It's that old European type stadium with a huge steel roof that's super loud. The pitch is great, and the view of the mountains behind with the river, and like it's just a great place. So I would invite all of you. I'm looking forward to coming to your places and cheering it on and enjoying the experience, because in the end, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, look, I said this to Brad, and I'm sure I mentioned it to Nate. My sister, my little sister lives in Boise, so I have a reason to go beyond the club. But I'm like, I'm gonna go and say, "Hey, sis, I'm here. I'm gonna go check out the soccer team in town." So
I hope so.
maybe we'll get
You
that
call
together.
me. You call me. We'll come and watch some training. We'll go get some good food, and we'll go hang out. It'll be
There
fun.
we go. There we go.
That sounds like a time. Bill Taylor, co-founder of AC Boise, kicking off their USL League One debut season in 38 days. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.